Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. Good evening. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. So glad you tuned in tonight because we have a really special show. Not that every show isn't special, but tonight we are celebrating first-time women authors. It just kind of worked out that way. You know, they're the authors that were ready to publish, and they were the authors that were ready. They have their books out there. So let me tell you this. If you're a man, Rob, my engineer, do not tune out. Do not tune out on me tonight because you will find that men are the inspiration for a lot of the women who were compelled to share their stories tonight. So you might learn something. We begin with Ann Reichert. She wrote The Dance Card. Now, Ann was married for 30 years, and then the bottom just fell out of her marriage and her life. It was a difficult time, but you know what? She pulled herself together. And Ann, why don't you tell us where you ended up?
I ended up going to this dating site. I'm 63, and at the time I was 55. So, you go online to this dating sort of scene, which is the world is digitally driven, and there's really no other way to, to find a possible partner in life. So that's what I did. So my book is based on my dating through an online dating site. And what I've done is I've given each one of my dates an alter ego. And depending upon their expression of style and the way they approach the dance floor or the dating floor, I've given them names like a specific dance, like Mr. Cha-Cha, Mr. Waltz, Mr. Salsa. And it's been very curious because each one of their personalities is very similar to the dance. I discovered so many things about the relationships today as compared to years ago. Compiling all of my dates/dances, I kind of, wrote down things that were interesting about each person and not really having any idea that I would do this. But one day I sat down and I had this big folder of all of these gentlemen that I kind of had either one-time coffee dates or just luncheons or whatever. And then two of them ended up in long-term relationships. And I thought, my God, this would be a great idea for a story. So then I sat down and wrote my book. And it was fun. It was fascinating. And during that period of time, I discovered a lot about dating today and relationships today as an older adult and how there are so many of us out there. And then, of course, since my divorce, which was in 2006, many of my contemporaries have gone through the same thing. So I'm sort of a psychologist helping them through the same scenario that I went through, the grieving process, obviously, and then how you move forward, and is there any possibility of finding somebody out there for love and relationship for the rest of your life? Well, I just kind of paved the way in a sense, and I give them my experiences, and the book sort of touches on that. It touches on a lot of negative things, that I encountered that you have to watch out for, but a lot of introspective sort of experiences that it can be good. And of course, there's a lot of romance that's involved in this and humor. And I found myself being very vulnerable and open to the fact that, I'm opening myself up to a lot of things that people out there may be thinking but are afraid to talk about. And I'm not afraid to talk about them. And that's what I do.
Did you have fun? Did you find fun? Did you find love?
I had a lot of fun. Oh, I found love in a lot of different forms. Like I say, approaching My relationship today, as an older adult, has already, had her family and been through all of those life experiences that we all kind of aspire to. My perspectives on dating and the reality of finding someone long term is completely different than if I were a 20-year-old entering a relationship. This is for me personally, and I'm just still discovering, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. Each individual brings something different to the table. One of my dancers, my last one, was a very young man. He was quite a bit younger than me, and I knew from the start, it was a gut feeling, this just wasn't right. It wasn't going to be a fit. He had a young daughter that could be as old as the granddaughter of mine, but there was such a wonderful chemical connection between the two of us that it just kept me in the game. And eventually, after time goes on, you discover all the obstacles that go along with maybe being with somebody younger. Because I'm not at that stage of life, and I'm thinking, hey, I want to be free and be able to travel and do all the things that I've been waiting to do for so many years, and he won't be able to do that for 20, 30 years. So, and by then I'll be dead. So it's kind of it opens your eyes to a lot of different things in terms of trying to find that one individual that might fit within your own, lifestyle and reality. And it's not that easy. Now, I've left it open because there's nobody left on my dance card for 10 dancers, and I've got my second book ready, and it's going to be edited. So it's a continuation of my first one.
So you hooked up with Paige, you started promoting your book, and from what I understand, you get a little bonus along the way.
I've actually partnered with somebody who has had a lot of connections with production companies in LA that I've met with, and really I've had some wonderful responses. Even before the book was out, I had my unedited manuscript. I let them read, and they think it might be a great idea for continuing either TV syndication series or possible HBO movie. So I'm kind of working on that already.
That's great.
I know. I think it's just unbelievable. So if it gets to that point, fabulous. If not, I have no problem with that either, because what I've accomplished at this point is just unbelievable to me. I never in my wildest dreams would have expected to even do this. So it's been really fun.
And you are a perfect example of you don't know what can happen until you try, and maybe it's hard, but you just got to give it a shot. I have a feeling we're going to talk to you again when you get your second book out there. Our next author, Michelle Theriault, is also on her, let's say, second chapter. Her kids are grown. She finally had the time to write a book about young girls, for young girls, and for anyone who needs to understand young girls. It's called Julia's New Sister.
Yes, that's book number one. There's going to be more to come, too. I just wrote the second sequel to the story, and I'm going to have that one sent in for publication in the springtime. So looking forward to getting that going as well.
And why now?
Well, I don't know. I just got inspired to do it. I have the time. I was busy raising my kids for their whole life, and now that they're at the age where they really don't need me around as much as they did before, I have more time on my hands now, so I can focus more on what I really want to do. And I've always been a writer. I've always been into art, and I decided, you know what? Might as well go for this dream. And I tried it. I wrote the book in less than a month, sent it in, and they accepted it right away. I was really excited. I was like, are you kidding me? Oh, my God, that's wonderful.
You wrote it in a month. Were you thinking about it for a long time?
It just came to me. This story just came to me. I mean, I might have had a little bit of my past memories from when I was younger, wishing that I would have had a little sister. I'm the second oldest of 5 children. And my first sister that came along, I was 13 years old. So I kind of wanted to have a sister my age so we can kind of grow up together and share a lot of the same experiences together. Even though that didn't get to happen, it was still always a childhood dream. So I think a lot of that had to do with how I felt when I was a kid. And I always thought about it, so I figured I'd write a story about it.
And she finds a playmate.
Well, she meets this little girl in the park. One day she was playing with her own toys. Her mother took her to a park one day, and she saw this little girl playing in a sandbox, and she was too shy, Julia. She was too shy to approach us, so she went over to a seesaw, and this little girl, Tammy, approached her and said, I would like, do you want to play me? And she's like, absolutely. So they started playing together, and they seesawed together, and then from there on, they just became the best of friends, and they did everything together. And as they started their friendship, Julia still wanted to have a little sister, or a sister to share, her life experiences with. So as the story goes along, Tammy ends up losing her mother to illness, and Julia's mom and dad decide to adopt her, and that's how she becomes her sister.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's a really sweet story.
So the story continues in the second book?
In the second book, yes, it continues. In each book that I'm going to be writing, the next one is going to be teaching about selflessness. So Tammy and Julia have to learn how to share, and this is the basis of the next series that's coming out.
Tammy better not grow up and steal her boyfriend. That's all I can say, Michelle.
Oh no, I don't think she's going to go that far. No, we won't let her do that. And yeah, I think as she goes along, we're going to start realizing that there's going to be a little bit of drama going on between the two of them over the years. Eventually, each story is going to have them grow together. So they're going to grow into adulthood. And then at some point down the road, I'm thinking long term now, hopefully someday there'll be a movie made out of this. That's what I'm thinking is my long-term goal.
Michelle, or a sitcom. Be a good sitcom, too.
It could be. It could be. Yeah, especially with the drama that the two of them go through, so it would make a good setting for it.
Yeah, well, you don't know till you put it out there. Anything can happen now.
Exactly.
So where do you go to talk about this book? Any ideas or thoughts on, promoting it?
I work with a friend of mine she helps me put together a WordPress website right now, and it's Julia's New Sister .wordpress.com, and it's basically a blog, just introducing the book, and then as each book gets published, we're just going to keep adding to the blogs. And right now, I have an appointment. Going to be a book signing event at Rogers Memorial Library in Hudson at 10 o'clock, and that's going to be one way of promoting it. It's also going to be televised in a local television station in the town, Hudson, New Hampshire. They're just going to film a little clip of what it's going to be. It's a book signing / children's reading in the children's room at the library. So I'm going to be doing a reading of the book as well. Of course, I have my Facebook with my friends and family, and the illustrator, a friend of mine's son that I went to high school with, and he's still in college right now going to school for art. So this is a great way to help him get his name out there as well. But he's wonderful. He's really great at making the illustrations. He really brought the story to life.
Oh, newsflash here. Okay, couple of things. Michelle had an illustrator right under her nose. You got to think about the people you know and the people they know, and in Michelle's case, the kids they have. This guy was an illustrator. He took care of everything for her. Then she went to her local library, and how many times have I said, go to your local library? The library suggested she do a reading to the kids, and the library called the local TV station up there in New Hampshire, who's going to tape her reading to the kids, and they're going to do a little story about her. How about that? What a great idea. See what can happen when you go to your local library. Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up, we have a repeat page published author, Peggy Baumgartner. Welcome back, Peggy. I remember Anderson Survived the Civil War, right? That was your last book. How'd you make out with that?
Everyone seems to like it okay.
I mean, there was a ton of research in that, as I remember.
Oh, there was. And as there was somewhat in this book that I have written, but this book started out as basically a comedy.
Wait a minute. The name of this book is The Secret Sins of Their Preachers, and it's about twin brothers who take very different paths, and it sounds,
right.
Sounds
kind of sinister, doesn't it?
A lot of suspense. It started out as a comedy?
It really did, because what happened was my parents, my mother, and her family are from the mountain area, and their older brother, John, married a lady and brought her home, and the girls didn't like her, so they pulled tricks on her, like just pulling her covers down at night, and it would scare her. and they actually put the cow manure in her snuff. And so she told me about all these stories. So I actually sat down to write a comedy about some of the things she told me. But then my book just seemed to take on a personality of its own. And it wound up being The Secret Sins of the Preachers. And so how it got from a comedy to this, I don't know.
So you're kind of possessed. You're one of those writers who...
Yes, I sit down with a thought, and I just finished another book. It's called Emma.
Jeez.
I have no rhyme or reason to my writing.
So The Secret Sons of their Preachers. Give me a little background on that.
Okay, it's basically about a minister and his wife have two sons, and they're twins. One of them is a minister who followed in his father's footsteps, but the other one pretends to be a minister. And he does things that are very sinister, and he kind of blames it on his brother because they look so much alike. And he does a lot of things that's very unbecoming, and it causes backdraft to his brother. And when he talks to them all, when he's confronted with it, he says that he doesn't need any religion because he feels like his family has enough for all of them, and he'd prefer to live his life as God so, if he chooses, not as God so chose to ordain or whatever. And their lives are basically interwoven with a lot of deceit, rape, crimes that's threatening to tarnish the image of his brother and his father. And it's going to look like it might even bring down the big mega church.
Oh, my God, Peggy, this is like crazy. This is so...
I know. And
plots and subplots? Wow. All right, at the end, do we learn a very important lesson?
Yes. At the end of it is a very, very good love story, but it's a very spiritual type love story, and it'll almost bring chills to you when you read about what they do. It's like they reunite, but it's a spiritual reuniting. And the only thing the people in the room see is just a breeze blowing through their hair as they walk away.
Oh, my God, Peggy, this is great.
I have a ball. I'm enjoying life. This is what I do now.
That's great. And you're sticking with Paige.
I guess for as I know I am if they'll have my next book. Like I say, I'm not taking a whole lot of money to the bank, but I'm enjoying my life.
Any advice for authors who are listening?
I think the main thing is to follow your dream. Mine was a dream in the 10th grade of high school, but I let life and marriage and children and grandchildren get in the way. Not in the way, but as part of an enjoyment, growing to the point of where I am now. Now my children are grown, my grandchildren are in college, my husband's learned to cook. So
wow.
I'm just loving it. I mean, today, now I'm treated special by all of them. And they take care of me while I'm following my dream.
Great advice, Peggy. Do what you love and follow your dream. What was that shirt I saw? Life is not a dress rehearsal. You want to do something, you got to do it. We got to take a quick break. Do not go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you. Printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club, a very special edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. We are celebrating some of our female authors. Now, in the first part of the show, you heard from women who, lived their lives, had their kids, and finally found the time to write their books and become published authors. Now you're going to hear from a young woman who found an incredibly unique way to develop her characters and her story, and then managed to draw attention to it in a way you probably never imagined. Check out A Splash of Color with Cherry Blossom, written by Barry. You want me to just call you Barry, right?
Yeah.
Barry, you only have one name. Nobody gets away with that. You have to be famous.
I know. Well, it's kind of been my nickname and everything for quite a few years now, so I thought, well, that's how everybody knows me that knows the story, so it just kind of went together.
Knows the story of Splash of Color with Cherry Blossom.
Yeah, this was the first
Heart. It's about Cherry Blossom, and she's a young girl who lives with a family of about 5. And she doesn't quite fit in because mom's side of the family is very fair and white hair, everything's white. And her dad's side of the family is pink, so pink hair, pink skin. And so her brothers and sisters are all pink and white. But she has purple hair, so it's kind of her story and why that is, and it's a bit involved, a little more than she was expecting when she finally finds out. She starts asking questions and gets a few more answers than she's ready for, actually. So it's kind of her life experience and dealing with this new information about who she is and where she comes from. And
at first glance, this looks like a children's book.
It does. It's more of I would say, the tween, young adult, but maybe a little bit younger, around, just getting into the teens, I would say. But anybody can really read it from teens up. I could go into the young adult genre as well, but it's definitely not for young kids.
Well, you talk about differences and realizing that you are different and celebrating that.
Definitely. It's just the reason that she's different is a bit more adult for very young kids. But, some do go through what she's been through, so it could go both ways there.
Is there a connection to you here?
It's kind of meant to be a series, and there are later ones with kind of my experiences infused in, but this one's definitely not. If all goes well, there will be about 9, and I have a rough draft for all of them because the original story was in a different form, so I've kind of fleshed out that into a book series.
Did you write these over a period of time, or did you just start deciding, to write now?
I started writing one chapter at a time, and I got hooked up with this amazing group of readers, and they just followed me through the whole thing. So it was just one update at a time, and they were there and kept me going. So, yeah, it was over about 2 years that I wrote the original story, and then it took about a year and a half, almost 2 years for the first book.
Tell me about this group of readers.
They're amazing. I actually started writing the story and illustrating it with The Sims to give it some pretty amazing visuals. And so my community of Simmers, it's a video game, we have an online forum, and I shared it there, and it started with a few, and then each update there'd be a few more, and then the blog just grew into this amazing thing. And by the end of the original story on the WordPress blog, we had over 1 million hits just for the story.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, The Sims, for people who don't know, explain.
Okay, Sims is a simulation video game, and you can create pretty much anybody, and it was how these Berry Sweets, which is the characters in the story, kind of got their start, because I could really give them a visual of what they are. So they're sweet characters, so they have their hair, their eyes, their skin, it's all bright and colorful, pinks, blues, greens, that kind of thing. And they had sweet names to go with them, so like Cherry Blossom, and her mother is Chantilly Lace Chiffon, and she's all white with very fair skin and white hair. So this game really gave me a chance to bring a visual side to it, and they really enjoyed it, and they kept me going. And
they kept saying, what happens next? What happens next?
Oh yeah, they were really great about commenting and just, what's going to happen now? And so then we just kept going. And
that's amazing. 1 million hits.
It was my heart. I couldn't believe it, and watching it grow, it was wow. It's even more now, and and yeah, we had a big celebration when we hit that milestone. And
all those people that you're already connected to are going to want to buy this book.
Yes, they were so excited because we kind of have a group now that I moved them to Tumblr, and so I was keeping them updated on the whole process. And okay, we're here, and okay, now we're working on editing, and okay, now we're going to do this. And I even told them about the interview. So they're all excited, and a few of them have been posting photos of them with their books, like, I got it. So it's been really great to see.
You're really using social media in a way no one would ever dream possible, to start a book, an idea with The Sims, and then it just turns into this monster. So you must have a pretty good story there.
It's quite an amazing adventure. Yeah, we're just getting started in this one, kind of the intro, and as we go, it gets bigger and there's more going on, and by the end, it's got a pretty big surprise.
Did your readers help you develop the story at all?
They did a little, yes, definitely, because there were certain things they would say or mention, and it would just kind of spark this idea of like, we could go here or we could go there. And I had a really great group of friends, 3 of them actually, and they were there the whole way because I would just bounce stuff off them like, okay, what do you think about this? And they'd be like, oh, yeah. And so we just kind of worked that together, and it was pretty fantastic experience.
Why Paige?
I was contacted by a few people when I started looking into publishing, and they just sent out information. They had this beautiful fold-out brochure, and it just had everything lined out, and it just really spoke to me the best, and they were very professional, and I just really felt comfortable with them, and it definitely worked out the best. They contacted me, and we were able to share the manuscript with very privately, and yeah, they definitely, I'm so happy that I went through them. It was my best decision. This is the first step, and I'm just so excited.
What do you do in real life?
I am a yoga instructor. This is quite a different thing than what I'm used to, and it's just my hobby. I would sit here when I get home from class and just start writing and taking photos, well, the story part, and then this time it was just kind of taking that, rough draft basically and fleshing it out into these full stories. So yeah, when I'm done, I get up and I go to class and I teach yoga.
Well, you go, Barry, go teach your yoga class. And you, my writer friends, I really hope you were taking notes. Who knew how helpful The Sims could be? I mean, this is a life simulation video game. Then she uses Tumblr, which is a social networking website where you can blog about whatever it is you're up to. And that's how she keeps her readers up on her progress. And she's got 1 million people following her and posting photos. She used every resource available to her to create this book, and then chose Page Publishing to get it out there. Truly amazing story. And I hope all of you can take a piece of this and run with it. That is all the time we have for tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And Rob, thank you for being with me every single week. This was good for men too, right, Rob? Oh, yeah, he learned so much, I can see the light bulbs going off in his head. We'll be back next week right here on 710 WOR with another edition of the Page Publishing Book Club. Stop by and check us out. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.